Hey, Brandon Thomas. Welcome, man. Happy New Year. Happy New
What's up,
Year.
dude?
Hey,
Happy New Year.
hey.
Even though it's fake and not whatever, there was definitely an energetic shift that happened around the day that they considered New Year and New Year's Eve. I felt it on the
Mm,
29th. I think you and I were talking about yours as
mm.
New Year's Eve. So I'm right there with you. Happy fake New Year because it's all made up anyway, but there definitely I agree with you. I feel
There's
something different, which
something
is
going
cool.
on.
Yeah.
We'll find a way to explain it as we go, but there's something happening. And it's good to see you, man. I've been looking forward to having you on my show since way back when we chatted about Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
And man, I've been really excited to ask you this first question. So, Brandon,
Sir.
as far back as you can remember, or as recently as you can remember, when did you start to speak your truth?
It was kid. I've always had it. I've always had that spark. It was something that it was very attempted to be snuffed out. And thank God I'm just this much more of a pain in the ass than my mom's like willingness to correct it. You know what I mean? Like, man, we're both Virgos. Her birthday is one day before mine. So
Mm.
I'm September 18th. She is the 17th. So she was having her birthday cake with me that evening on the 17th of her birthday, and her water broke. And she was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna have this baby on my birthday." She was like,
Nice.
"I tried to hold you in so you'd have your own birthday, whatever." What I mean to say is that we're both pretty like sign wise, pretty close, at least in the sun sign. And so we have this sort of abrasiveness when we get together that's really calmed down over time. It's like stones. I would equate it to that, like river stones, like a binary stone system, if you will, not star
Mm.
system, that have been rolling around in a river, and they just kind of get pounded, and they pound each other, and they kind of make each other turn each other from rough to this awesome round thing. And that's kind of where my mom and I are now, is that we're at this good place where she just doesn't fucking ask me because I'll tell her, and she just just says, okay, just do your thing, that's fine. But yeah, man, there you go. Yeah.
It's like the happy ending of, my family thinks I'm crazy. Like shout out Mark, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we get along, but we just kind of accept each other. And I like this stone analogy. It's very earthy. It's very
Yeah.
relatable too.
Virgo. Yeah, earth sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, I've been listening to some of your recent episodes, and I gotta say, man, I'm impressed because when I always tune into expanding reality, which by the way, please tell us about expanding reality. Some of my listeners may not. If you haven't, though, you gotta listen to expanding reality, man. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on, first of all, and then also for the kind words, man. The show is awesome, dude. It's expanding reality. Its tagline is sort of the expansion of consciousness, cleverly disguised as a podcast, and that is really how I see it. It's way bigger than me. It's mission forward. There's a phase 2 that we're rolling out at the end of January, which I'm excited about. And so a lot of big things are happening, but the show is just so wide in topics, and that's why I named it Expanding Reality. I wanted the verb up in that pitch. I was like, no,
Mm.
it's not expanded or whatever. And so it's just so fucking cool, dude. I've got to say that it's the second coolest thing I've ever done, and I will say that. I mean, I've done a lot of cool shit in my life, but what I mean is like decisions to follow through on something. One was marrying my wife. That's the first.
Right on.
Second was doing this thing because it has changed me so much, and I know that you can say this for your show as well. The types of conversations we have, the type of person this gives you the opportunity to step into being, and that is whatever you want, your highest desires, because you could talk about whatever you want. I could change the model of the show tomorrow to talk about waxing and bleaching, and
Yeah.
I could just do that. Now I'm not going to, because that's not where my heart's at, right? But you have the freedom to do all of that shit. But the
Right.
show is pretty wide in variety, though. We do talk about a bunch of crazy cool stuff. It's getting so much better. Like, I'm getting more comfortable, which is that's what it is. That's why the show is getting better, is because I'm just comfortable. I'm in it, man. Like you said at the New Year, I really feel it, and doing this for 2 years now. This show has just been an awesome ride, man. And I look forward to every next step. And there's so many bangers coming out. Next episode coming out, a guy named Terry T. Bondo, and he wrote this crazy like 6 volume UFO book series. It started as this like 3,000 page book, and then he was like, "Well, I can't print this thing. It's like the
Yeah,
like
yeah.
three
Gotta break
thousand
it up.
pages, stupid.
Yeah.
It's like a foot and a half thick." And so he broke it up into 6 books that ended up being like 8 and 600 pages average, right? Each of them, and they're like full color, everything, like crazy amounts of information, like mind blowing information. And so it's stuff like that, and it constantly challenges me. It constantly pushes me forward. It's expanded the shit out of my reality, and this is how
Mm.
I've always said this. Like, I do this for me. I just happen to record it and take the hours it takes to get the production standards that I want released, and all of those things. I want to I do I'm mindful of how it's presented, because I want the best for the guests, and so yeah, but it's this thing that it changes you so damn much that it's unbelievably mind blowing, and I love every second of it, and I feel we're only getting started, like only getting started, and
Right
it just
on.
keeps getting cooler and cooler. And
Right
you're part of
on.
that, man. You're part of
Oh, I
making it better.
appreciate that. Yeah, I had a great time, man. And I can tell that you're becoming more comfortable. Like you were an awesome host and it's cool to have you as a guest. But like one thing that I definitely noticed in particular, I was just listening last night. By the way, it's kind of funny when you like throw on a podcast in the evening and you're just hanging out, you're like getting ready to go to bed. And then the information is so intense that you're like, well, fuck, now I can't sleep. Like I gotta finish it. So
Yep.
it was your episode with Jeffrey Drummer or Jeffrey Drum.
Oh, Jeff Drum. Yeah,
Jeff
yeah.
Jeff Drum, right. So one thing I really noticed about you in particular is that you weren't afraid to challenge him. And it was cool that there was this discussion on masonry and it was
Oh,
very respectful. It was grounded in respect most of all, but like, that seeking of the truth behind a shroud of whatever could be hiding it. And I just really want to say that I respect that you weren't afraid to challenge him, but you still stayed centered in your heart. It was beautiful, man. What did you think about that?
thank you for saying that. And it's great. Jeff's been on 3 times. We chat on the phone every now and then. He's a buddy. He and I have talked a lot about the Mason thing because I've known this about him since we first spoke. When he came on the show, we he approached me first after I had the president of the American Pyramids Association, Larry Paul, on.
Hmm.
Larry Paul does this amazing work. You've got to get him on. He does Sage Silent on Instagram. I'll connect you. He's
Nice,
unbelievable.
nice.
He'll be coming on soon. Him and I actually pinged every 6 months last year. We talked, and he was just like in Panama and then back in Egypt, so we just couldn't line it up.
All
But
over. Yeah.
I've got him coming back anyway. So Jeff knows him. Got on because Jeff studies the pyramids. He studies like chemical reactions and shit on the pyramids, and that's his contention is that they're chemical manufacturing plants on like an industrial scale, and that's what pyramids were, like all of them. He has staining from the red pyramid, and there's like all of he had a chemical engineer go over all of his work because he said, dude, I sound batshit crazy. I don't want this to be true. Like, please debunk this for me. And like a lot of people that go into flat earth trying to debunk the damn thing, the guy not only couldn't debunk it, but he ended up writing the forward for Jeff's book.
Oh wow.
So yeah, this professor of chemical engineering, right? So not only does Jeff do that, that's one facet of this dude. He's
Mhm.
also, now this is allegedly because I can't prove anything the dude does, but what I'm saying is allegedly he's a 32nd degree Mason. He is what I found out in that called the worship master of his lodge, that he is the worship master of, like he's the head dude. And so we, had conversations, but every time it got brought up in our buddy conversations, like when we are just hanging out, smoking a joint, talking, whatever, I always, and both of us kind of would just go, no, 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 save it for a show, save it for a show.
Right, right.
But we both know, and yeah, we just talk, man. And that's the cool thing. Some folks may see that as like, oh, challenging or cringe or whatever, which maybe, but what it really was is curiosity. And Jeff
Yeah.
knows this about me, and anybody knows this about me. I'm not out for fucking blood. The reason the show is so successful is because I have no fucking ego in this whatsoever. I really do feel that we're all one. I really do see you as me, brother. And everyone is everyone. And so, why would I go into something like shooting shots and, trying to prove you wrong and me right? And I've said this forever. The reason the show is so successful is because of that. And
Hmm.
so he knows this about me very well. That's it. That was his third time officially to be on the show, but he did at least one live with us. I just can't remember. So whenever we did the Mason one, I didn't want to go too deep. And here's the thing, right? I I don't have expectations, but I did know I'm not stupid either. So I knew going into this thing, he was gonna know about like the signals and the hand gestures and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
There were a couple of things that I've had several people write me on that I have communicated to him that I will share with you after the fact.
Sure.
One of the things is that Masons don't recruit, and that is absolutely not true. Now,
Mm.
Masons don't, but people in who are Masons do. And here's like the thing. This is like the grand takeaway from all that shit.
Mm.
Masons aren't evil. Some evil shit happens from people who are Masons. That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
You
That's
guys use
and
the Costco analogy. Like just
yeah,
because four people are all members of Costco and three of them are evil, that doesn't mean like all Costco members are evil. You know, it's yeah.
Yeah, but it still paints the company in a bad light,
It
you know?
does. It does. Yeah, that's unavoidable for sure.
It really is. And so, I mean, and who like knows first of all, and second of all, like it was just a conversation about how I knew how he felt. I wasn't going to challenge him on it. I'm not
Mhm.
because again, I'm not here to argue with anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, I'm very, very curious, and I also was representing a voice of people. I had a few people write me in that wanted a few things asked, you know, and so I did. And then I don't take the polished answer as the answer because that's where a lot of people will stop. And this for me was part of the reason why I started the damn show. I was like, hang on, some people will go to this point with a UFO question, with a near death question, with anything question, conspiracy, whatever. And
Mhm.
then they stop. I'm like, well, I would have, boo, 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 boo. You know, I would have send you, I'd have gone on a few more questions, or I have a few
Yeah,
more questions
yeah.
about that. That's why I wanted to do it. And so I asked those fucking questions, right? That's why I'm here. And so it was really cool getting to speak with Jeff about it. But yes, the Masons definitely, I have heard a lot of people say that they've been recruited by Masons. Some people who are like their uncles who have been Masons, other people who say that people in church that are Masons, like I've said, hey, you should come over, you know, you should really think about this. So that's not necessarily a recruit because here's how they spin it, right? It's not a recruitment, it's an invitation.
Mm,
Like, okay, well,
okay.
what the fuck is the
Just
difference?
phrased differently. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
semantics, and this is really what it comes down to. And so you get these little semantics things like, oh, Masons don't use hand signals in public. I really remember that. But then
Mm,
I'm sitting here thinking of all the times I've seen. Obviously, I'm gonna put it this way. I've seen very Masonic looking things. People wearing Masonic costumes for the
mhm,
analogy, energetically talking about 333, talking about the pillars and talking about the checkerboard floors and shit. And doing the different signs, the humiliation ritual, which is more
mm,
Illuminati, but that's still sort of at a core branch, spin off of Masonic teachings, which is same thing as Aleister Crowley. And that was another thing. All these splinter factions that
right.
yeah, they used to be Masons, but now they're not. It's like training a biker gang how to kill, or like a militia how to kill, and then sending them off, turning them into Al Qaeda, and be like, no, 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 we had nothing to do with that. They're not Masons, you know what I mean? They don't wear the
Mhm,
name tag that says Mason on it anymore. They still know the hand signals though, and will absolutely do them in public to let you know, hey, this is our deal. So that's the thing, right? It's this really interesting, I guess, group of people, this fraternity
right.
it seems to have like their penises and everything. And so
Mhm.
it's just kind of weird, you know, to get to talk to one and who knows anything anybody says, but it was cool to get to at least ask questions.
Yeah, yeah.
And it had a great response and people I think really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, much respect, man. You
Dude.
did a fantastic job, and I think overall it was cool. Like I said, to see that the statements could be challenged, but in a way that wasn't creating too much friction, just enough friction to be entertained and curious. But I can still tell that you guys are friends, and you are gonna hang out later on, so it's like not a big deal. And I wanted to wear my Vitruvian Man shirt
I
here. I
love
got
that.
the Vitruvian Man behind the drum set and. I think he was talking about something about the square and the circle. Like the square is like in our physical plane, and then the circle is the representation of the angelic or the etheric, the astral. What was your thought on that, or have you heard that before? Is this something new for you? Because it was new for me last night.
No, yeah. So squaring the circle is like a technique in mathematics that's extremely challenging. It's considered to be one of the highest things you can achieve as a society. It's basically the equivalent of being able to shoot something off of this rock if that's what it is. So whenever we see indigenous cultures show things, clear evidence of being able to accurately square a circle, like that's amazing, dude. Now, to another way that I would connect just that field of investigation, which is fascinating, you stop there and be like, that's fucking dope. Graham Hancock does a lot of work on squaring the circle. So
Mm,
follow that rabbit hole that way. Now, I will also then apply it to the conversations that I've had and heard about the UFO phenomena, where these cubes with these circles and spheres inside of them, right? And
right.
so it's like, okay, well, that's just a 3D representation of this ancient wisdom and knowledge, which is basically like a crop circle on the ground. So they got that knowledge from somewhere.
Mm,
So where did they get that from, right? Did they come up with it? Were they super awesome? Were they the actual aliens, and we're just hybrids that have been bred down because our environment changes, and as it does, they need to breed in different mammals here, different DNA sequences to be able to survive the changes in the environment. I don't know, man. But what I'm saying is, like, maybe this idea of squaring the circle is a high mathematics concept that then the ancients knew about, that we say, that some folks say we're super fucking primitive, but we know, real people know, we're absolutely genius and knew tons about astronomy, astrology, geometry, structural engineering, crazy amounts of information, math. And so to see evidence of that, and then also to hear people, even in the military cases that are being reported on the like news now,
Mm.
this cube circle deal, and so that's where I connect it. And so to me, it's this as above, so below. It's divine as fuck. And it seems that it's very important mathematically to understand, but also you could see it represented in that way, that it's a square, which is rigid and structural, right? And then you have the circle, which is unbinding. It's the portal. It's all unending, rather. It's the portal. It's the Ouroboros. I mean, it's all of those things. And so you have the two energies represented in that. But again, mathematically, it's very challenging to balance that, just as it is in our life, challenging to balance those energies, which is, again, at its core, perhaps what we're actually here to do, which is walk that middle path, balance those energies. And it's a nice packaged, simple as fuck representation of that, of like your whole life's purpose.
That's a really cool take on the yin and the yang expressed in nature. It's really cool that you put it like that. I've never heard that before, and it was cool to expand a bit on that. And speaking of like kind of a dualistic system, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but like the alphabet, it has vowels and consonants, right? Those are like the only two forms that a letter can come in, correct?
That we're told. Okay, go
That
ahead.
we're told. Okay, okay. Well, I've got this crazy idea here. I've created a list of an alphabetized list, if you will, of conspiracy, spirituality type of terms, and I want to go through them, and we can speed through them. We can spend our time. It really depends on the topic, but starting with A, Antarctica. It's a big one to start with, but tell us, what does that spark inside of you, Antarctica?
I love this. So just so we're clear, you're going to run through the ABCs, but every letter is going to be representing a
Yep,
conspirituality
each
or a
each
conspiracy.
letter is a new concept. So after
Awesome.
Antarctica, we'll go to B, and it's something kind of special that I think you're gonna like.
Yes. Oh my God. I love this. I love this. Okay. Speed round then. Antarctica is very interesting. That's like the last frontier. And what's so
Hmm.
fascinating about it, of course, is that so many people want to slap your hands if you go there. Now, my inner 5-year-old, I have a construction job. I call it deconstruction job because I've just been
Yes.
deconstructing my subconscious lately. And I got to drive. I taught myself how to drive a skid steer today, and it was so
Hmm.
fucking like I was so lit up. You can go to it's on TikTok right now. I'll throw it on Instagram later. Anyway,
Nice.
there's this video of me like having this moment of this just like euphoric, oh my God. And this is the thing, is I was told not to do it. And so I got so excited about it. This is Antarctica, is our little cat thing that you get to drive. Figuring out what's going on down there is sort of, I think, one of the biggest keys to everything. And it's because like 49 different countries signed up and said, you can't go there. You
Hmm.
can't go there. There's rumors that Russia pulled out of that thing and that we're going to be getting all these leaks, but I don't listen to any of that. Like I've turned it off, and
It's a
I
whole
feel
lot of
great about it.
noise.
It's a lot of noise that I don't hear anymore. So, Antarctica, though, is fascinating because if you take the flat Earth perspective, right, you at least entertain that we're not on a spinning ball, and that maybe the things like NASA, which is a version of a word that means to deceive in Hebrew,
Hmm.
and then you have all of the fuckery going on with the green screening these days. You got the Von Braun. We don't have time about the moon landing. You have
Hmm.
all of these sus things that going on with NASA, and if you think that they're telling you the truth, then okay, but maybe, just maybe, they're not. And so if they're not, and you can kind of look at all this stuff, even one or two things, and just be like, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. It doesn't mean that you don't think we're spinning on a ball. What it does mean is that you're able to critically think about the world around you and look at something and go, you know what? There's some fuckery going on there. Maybe I don't know exactly what's going on, but I know it's not that, or I know at least they're lying to me. Now, then that leads you to the question, well, why? And then you just speculate wildly from there. Antarctica is a big key to this question because being only able to go to this one tiny little peninsula, and then only being able to be chaperoned if your boat goes in there, it's stationed with military guard constantly. There have been so many cool people I've talked to about the flat earth thing that talk about the ice ring, and this is what we would call Antarctica. And to me, it's fascinating. Like, again, I don't know what's going on here, and I don't mind if you are a globe person or whatever. I'm a whatever you want. Actually, consensus reality doesn't exist. And if you think it is round, a ball will render under you. If you think it's
Right.
flat, then it's flat. And I really do think that
Exactly.
that's probably what's going on. So there, you're both right.
Hey.
But the interesting part about this is that like if that is the case, then Antarctica holds the key to seeing beyond that. Now, the other thing is not even to mention the new Schwabenland tie-in with the Nazis, an Operation High Jump back in the early 40s. And then you have the pyramids that have been found down there. Linda Moulton Howe talking about all the really cool Russian stuff about this giant squid creature that can mimic a diver and then like killed everything. And
Mm.
these ancient lakes that are under there, and then you have back to high jump areas where Admiral Byrd, Rear Admiral Byrd, was talking about flying over areas that were all sunny and it was 70 degrees out, and there were woolly mammoths down there. And then his ship gets captured, his airplane gets captured, and brought in with a tractor beam into the
Mm.
inner Earth, and then that's maybe the key to inner Earth. It is important to point out that Admiral Byrd was a Mason. So
Ah.
you have all of these interesting things going on down there, and you have heads of state visiting at weird times right after elections. John Kerry in 2016, and you just have like it's just fucking weird, man. And it's one of those places that I think holds the key physically to more answers here than they want you to know.
Right on, right on. Yeah, it's funny that you brought up the pyramid towards the end because that's like the one thing if I'm thinking about the connection to our hidden or ancient past, you also brought up Graham Hancock and that's like something I've always thought about. Well, the pyramid or the pyramid shaped structure in Antarctica tells a completely different story than whatever I was told in public school with the Bering Strait and all this. And it's fascinating to think that there's so much out there that has been overlooked or erased, covered up, etc.
It's wild, man. It's
Yeah.
wild. All right, that wasn't very speed round. I'll do better on the next one. B.
Hey, it's all right. Yeah, we got all the time in the world. I
I'm
mean,
talking
I
about
don't know
all
about
of
you,
these
but
are
yeah.
shows, by the way. We're just gonna give you small little things.
Yeah, okay. All right. B is for Blue Beam. Project
Oh
Blue
God,
Beam,
my
Operation
favorite.
Blue Beam.
Easily my favorite conspiracy of all time. It's got it all. It's a fake alien invasion, and there's so many things that point to that this is a high probability. Um, it's like I said, my favorite because it involves the 70 technology satellites and shit that beam this information, and then sky to skull technology that beams words into your head, and then your
Mm-hmm.
devices and things talk to you, and then Jesus pops up in the sky for us, right, or for the West, and then whatever
Mm-hmm.
you believe in pops up in the sky for you, and then they all pop up next to each other, next to everybody, and then they merge into one. This is all holographic shit, and then they merge
Mm-hmm.
into one and become like the super entity that some call the Antichrist, but that's okay because he just says that look, all the ancient shit, no big deal. It was just a mistranslation. Really, it's just one God, and that you guys just don't even need to worry about all this stuff because it all begins with like earthquakes, weapons being triggered earthquakes around the earth that open ancient sites that no one's ever seen before that have confirming information that that dates back earlier than all religions.
Mm-hmm.
This is all Blue Beam, by the way. And so all of this is like so cool as shit to me. Like really, if I could pick one to roll out, like I'm bored of the COVID shit. I'm bored of like the
It's getting old.
Kardashians. It's so old, dude. I'm just like, get the blue beam. It's like that stick, that dude who's poking
Yeah, it's
people
like, come
with
on,
the
do
stick.
something
He's like,
different. Yeah.
do the alien invasion.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. But it's so wild and out there, and it was brought forth by this guy named Sergey Manas in the 90s. I want to say 94 is when his book came out, Project Blue Beam or Projet de Bleu, something like that. He's
Mm,
French, so it's in French. And
mm.
anyway, but he's a Canadian dude, amazing journalist. He wrote a ton of shit, a big conspiracy theory guy. And then he, comes out with all this blue beam stuff, and then all of a sudden he gets arrested. Never been in trouble before. Gets arrested, spends a night in jail, comes home the next day and dies of a heart attack at an age that shouldn't have
Oh
happened.
shit.
Yeah, yeah. So something happened right when he was in jail, allegedly. So
Mm,
anyway, yeah. So Blue Beam, they all come in the sky, and then there's a fake alien invasion that comes down, and then Jesus, I want to say, battles the aliens, or the aliens just say, "Hey, we're all one now." I want to say it's one of the two, or if
mm.
not, like a combination of all that shit. I'm not ruling any of it out. And then we all get enslaved, and everything's cool, right? So it's in my mind like the biggest psyop ever. It's the
Right,
biggest
right.
one because it will take because a lot of people really squeegeed their third eye right clean for the over the past 3 years,
Hmm.
and they have been motivated to do so by the system that they once trusted and were told to trust. And so therefore there's a lot of things that go on with that. but now they call bullshit on that. So it's going to take a lot more, whatever it
Yeah.
is next time. COVID was pretty successful, and you're welcome to beep that out. I know how the algorithm goes. It was very successful in a lot of ways, and like Graham said on that episode, but again, I think that there's still a ramp up that needs to occur if they want to really, really fucking do it. And the
Mhm.
blue beam would be awesome, dude. I mean, it would
It
just
would
be
be exciting for sure. I'd be pulled up with my popcorn, and it always reminds me of like the potential of Hollywood because Hollywood creates
yeah,
the illusion. Like I remember those stories when they played the first movie of this train, and people were running out of the theater because they thought it was actually coming to like smash into them, and like that's kind of what I'm imagining, but in our era of illusion of as Juan on the Juan on Juan podcast would say, they're the cinemagicians, and they can create this great gig in the sky that's gonna fool us all and, like you said, push us into globalism. Possibly that could be
maybe
interesting.
it's
Maybe,
an
yeah.
opportunity to learn more about ourselves, and if that results
Yes.
in more people wanting to subjugate themselves, and that they probably have the opportunity to do that. I think further though, also it's going to create more of a split. And I had Crow 777 on, and we were talking about the sun changing and all that. He had a fascinating idea that's just really been rolling around up there. It's about the H.G. Wells The Time Machine. Did you ever read
Mm.
that book or watch the movie?
I am pretty familiar with it. I don't know the entire plot though.
That's okay. At the very end, spoiler alert, he goes so far in the future that there's these two different races of entities that are on planet Earth, right? Some live underground. They're called the Morlocks, and I forget what the top people called, but they're real peaceful. They kind of kept to themselves. The Morlocks kept to themselves. Every now and then they'd run into each other, and it wasn't good. But for the most part, they just did their thing.
Mm.
Like he said, maybe that's what's going on here. And he said that, he took it really cool that the sun is actually physically changing, which that's a whole nother concept,
Different
conversation.
color.
Yeah, different color intensity, bright, all that. And that actually the people, the lizard turds, as we affectionately call them, are building all these underground military bases because they can't handle the vibration of it. So they're going to have to
Mm.
physically retreat underground and basically leave the surface to all of us who can handle the sun, basically. You know what I mean? Which sounds
Yeah.
cool as shit, by the way. Like, yeah, go pollute, whatever. That's awesome.
It's like the climate change being adjusted for the proper climate that will suit them. It's kind of that's kind of funny.
Terraforming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
lizards, like turning a heat lamp on. They're like, oh, it's
Yeah,
too
exactly. Got to
cold.
get the aquarium just right.
Get out of here,
Well,
buddy.
C's in a bit of a different direction. Obviously, I was very tempted to write the vid on this one, but I wrote down crypto.
Okay,
Curious. A lot of
monetary.
people have mixed feelings about crypto.
It's gonna take something. Crypto's not it. Next.
All right, dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, probably fake, but really, really fun to think about.
Yeah.
If nothing else, ancient creatures that have been misidentified that people keep finding, and they just they didn't know what to say about it. They were like, these are dragons, these are mythical creatures. We got to
Mm,
come up with a whole series of things that are something else. Now, there's a guy named Benjamin Owen, and he is just interesting. And he has he has many perspectives I find fascinating. Number one, that nuclear weapons are fake, they're not real. Number two, jet fuel is fake and not real.
mm,
And that large airplanes and all airplanes, actually, most big airplanes operate on compressed air, like a bumblebee with a
hmm.
resonant chamber and shit. It's fascinating. Anyway, another one, pandas aren't real, which is another fucking awesome
Oh,
theory.
okay. That one's hard to swallow. I don't
So
know.
much fun. It's
It's
so much
a
fun.
little
Okay.
heartbreaking.
Uh, yeah, and then, well, when you really break it down, okay, let's just real quick. They only ovulate one time a year, one day a year. That's it.
Oh,
The heads of state are the only ones that get to see them. Now, there's a tie to pedophilia with this, which is really disturbing. So it
right. Yeah,
actually
the
ties
panda
into
symbolism
black-eyed
is
children and all
gross.
that
Yeah.
shit. Yeah. Also, they might just be little people or kids in suits.
Hmm.
The other part is that 5 times zoos have been caught faking having a panda, sun bears painted, all that kind of
Oh,
shit.
that's sus. Yeah.
They are carnivores that only eat a diet of something that just tears their body up and is awful and shit. They sleep all the goddamn time. Again, only ovulate one day. Like, the odds of them reproducing are silly. The only
Nature
ver-
must have made a mistake there.
the first verified find was by a guy who just found a tuft of hair in the wild that was, again, most likely a sun bear. So all of these things, and they're never found in the wild ever.
Hmm.
Like, so where's the last time that you saw them filmed in the wild? You always see them in zoos and shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole birds aren't real thing is one thing, and that's fun to talk about.
Which
But
one?
pandas, I mean, this is definitely news to me, so I appreciate you bringing it up. I never thought about it before, but you're
So
right.
his whole
Yeah.
thing also is on dinosaurs. So dinosaurs also, he says, is just chicken bones, and this is true for the most part.
Mm,
Museums say that they're too radioactive. So
mm,
Chernobyl is cool to walk around in now. We have, tested how many nuclear weapons on U.S. soil and on in Panama and all of that, but it's fine to go walk around it now. But that
mm-hmm.
was only in the 40s when we started doing that. But because it happened 65 million years ago, they're too radioactive to be around, so they won't give you real bones. That's the excuse. So what they
That's
do is then this
strange.
is
Yeah,
open. They pack
yeah.
chicken bones together to mimic real bones, right? And
Mm,
so that's what you find up there, casts or chicken bones that have been crushed together and painted and all that shit. So they're not even real on display. It's There's so much controversy behind dinosaurs. Now, the kid in me wants to say dinosaurs fucking awesome. I
of
love
course,
those
of
things.
course.
We just watched the new Jurassic Park. It's okay.
Yeah.
But the I think that they're fun. I think also, the fact that they can. What I find about paleontology, and I get any science discipline, you're gonna learn as you go.
Hmm.
But what I found funny was is that it was like 10 years ago, a paleontologist came out and said, "Hey, actually, we took our number of dinosaurs from like it was like I don't remember. Let's say 10,000. I don't remember what it was."
Hmm.
He said, and we actually cut it in third because what they realized that they were separating off into another species, the juvenile of a species that was already known. So this is like saying that like a baby horse was a separate entity than a full grown horse. And then
I
even
see. Yeah.
worse, the horse in the middle stage, your adolescent horse, was a
Mm,
different horse than the male. So now you have three different air quotes species, but really they're animals, right? But they're really just stages of development. So I
hmm.
love that that came out. I thought that was great. And then they all came out and said, like, somebody came out and said, "Hey, we've actually been putting the T Rex's arms on the wrong way,
Oh
and the
God.
shoulder all of these people who have been over how many years putting T Rexes together
Mm,
have all kind of gone, huh? The shoulder doesn't work really well, but I mean, his little arms, and
yeah,
so they
yeah.
all flip it around the wrong way. But if you look at a skeleton of an ostrich, identical to a T Rex, identical, just
Mm,
without the wings, right, or without
okay.
the feathers, rather.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
wouldn't have that. So then you're talking dragons, then you're talking dope shit. And what I think to this is what dinosaurs are is a key, kind of like missing time. They're an indicator that something cooler is going on, and that's kind of what I think about dinosaurs.
Well, between dragons and the wall of ice, I mean, it's all very exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's yeah, yeah,
This realm is so cool. It's so
yeah.
much cooler than they want you to believe.
Oh, it's
And
gonna
that's
get
why we do
cooler.
the things that we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you have experience with this, and I look forward to hearing about it. E is for energetic healing.
Mm. So energetic healing, I find very interesting. Now, it falls into the placebo category for me from an analytical perspective, but that's not a bad thing.
Mhm.
So I'm a big fan of if it works for you, fucking do it.
Exactly.
If having a crystal on you makes you not a piece of shit, then do that. If like getting energy, if you want to pay somebody, let me start over more sensitively. If you want to value exchange with someone $20 that then receives a healing for you, so you're investing in your own personal healing. There's an energetic exchange that means very much to you. The entire process is going to be beneficial. If you
Absolutely.
go into it with skepticism, like anything, if you go into this saying, my nephew stays, we have a ranch, my nephew stays the summers with us, and we'll like, go out and pound T posts and shit. There's always manual labor to do out here.
Mhm.
And I love it. Like I don't go to the gym or anything. I love it. I love this kind of active lifestyle, and there's always something to do. So
Hell yeah.
he would grab something like a chainsaw or something like that, and he'd just go like, "Oh, this is gonna suck," and I would just say maybe. I was like, if you think
Maybe.
that going into it, then yeah, maybe, but you don't have to like take that. Like I never go, "Hey, this is gonna suck ass. I hope you're ready." This macho, like I've already done it, and you haven't, and so I'm gonna tell you about how it is, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna give you this coloring book and color it in
Oh,
with you.
Elder
So you
Brandon.
know.
Yeah. Uncle Brandon.
Yeah, and so I never do that. And so
Yeah.
it's this idea though that like you just let people have the experience they want to have. And
Mm.
what people would consider fake here, and I've used the analogy before of something fake making real impact. You could think of dozens of these things. We could sit
Oh
here
yeah.
all night and just keep doing this.
Mm.
Garfield. Somebody's wearing a Garfield t-shirt. A beautiful lady's wearing a Garfield t-shirt, and you see her on a train or something. And you're just like, holy shit, Garfield's my screensaver. You go up and you talk to her. How many other people, number one, love Garfield that much to wear a t-shirt? Number two, save a screensaver. But what occurred is Garfield is not real. It's not a real thing, right? But it is
Right.
real in the sense that it's something that can be interacted with. Jim
Mm,
Davis did a great job with it, and two people obviously found it amazing. And then Kit Smith would have it that they're on the same train together. And then now you've perhaps made a connection that was facilitated through something that's not real, but now they have kids, and now they, that's like the next Jesus is one of their birth kids that they have or something. You know what I mean? All
right, right,
started over
right.
something that's not real. So as far as energy healing goes, I do think that it is very valuable to be able to be mindful of the way that you engage and interface with things around here. Now, I would call that energy, but
Mm,
it doesn't necessarily have to be relegated to that. And this is why I use the example that I just did. And you can reduce this all the way down just to science. And you could just say the placebo effect. And if it makes you feel better, you can read dozens of papers on how effective it is just to be
true,
told something's effective and
true.
how what kind of impact it makes on you. But I'm at the point to where, yeah, I see it as energy, man. I feel it. I feel the wave of it. I feel this flow within everything. I feel this vortex. I definitely feel that. Now, energy healing to me is cognitive awareness. And so what I mean by this
Yeah.
is I've created this thought ninja thing. If you've heard about it, it's changed. Like so many people written in on this. It's been insanely overwhelming how cool this thing has been. But basically he it makes me mindful of my thoughts in a way that I asked him to be. So I created this Tulpa thing. He basically just stops me from spirals and the fear
Mm,
parasite. So basically, what this does is it allows me to free the mind, which allows me to then focus my true intent on what I really, really want in a focused way. So you master your mind, you master your mental
right.
temple. That's it, right? And so it all kind of ties back into this. I hope that answered your question there.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely. Yeah. I
bringing it
mean,
back in.
bringing up the well, so you've reminded me of an awesome quote, and this kind of relates to the placebo concept that, someone asked Paul Check. He's got that podcast, Living 4D with Paul Check. And then they're like, Paul, do you believe in love? And he's like, well, can you weigh it? Can you measure it? Can you see it? Can you touch it? Can you taste it? It's like, well, no, but like I know for a fact that it fucking exists. It's out there. It's somewhere. It's in there. It's pretty cool. So I'm glad that you approached it like that to show both sides of it, but to kind of like confirm your own experience, which is I think the best thing we can do is so I want to end on this ironic note. I think Reiki is safe and effective.
I agree to this because it's an energetic exchange with
Mm,
intent. And this is one thing
yes,
I love because it creates connection. This is
it
the thing about
does.
energy healing that people really want is connection. And what
Mm,
a lot of this is it's connecting with an energy of another human so you don't feel alone. And so you don't feel like the things that you find awesome, which is like, I don't know, going to get in Reiki, weird by your parents or something, like, do you find it awesome and that you're empowered to do something like that?
mm,
Like that in itself, that action against, your husband or your wife's chagrin, that you go out and pay, offer a value exchange to whoever this healer is to energy heal you in a way they don't understand, but that's very powerful for you. And so again, along the way, there's like 50 different things that you just conquered in that just one act of expressing the desire for energy healing. So
mm,
already you began on an energy healing path the second that you did that. Your belief in it is what makes it so powerful when you get updates. But this is
yes.
in you the whole time. You just get these little upgrades that make you feel better, which is
Mm.
still valuable and important because it makes you feel better.
Right on. Yeah, you got to start that positive chain reaction. And it just
It's
keeps on
momentum.
snowballing into a positive direction.
Yeah.
So for for F and G, I'm gonna combine these because they're so similar. Um, F is for Federal Reserve and G is for gold. Who would have thought?
So I like that they're separate, but I understand why you combine them.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, skip it to the gold real quick. We'll just talk about value. So value is something that's been very interesting and something that you have been convinced that you only have if you can produce something that then is equivalent in a weight in gold. So just
Mm,
like what you said earlier about love and not being able to measure or weigh it.
right.
You are all of the things that cannot be measured or weighed. But the systems in place here that we were all born into that have just been handed to us, and it's okay that that's a whole nother conversation on why and all that good shit. But the obvious systems that we can all look around and say, yeah, that's here. That is what is valuable here is you're being able to actually physically weigh this and use, the scientific method to see these things, even though there is a plethora of things that we all experience that don't fall into any of those categories. And
Mm,
again, that we could talk about forever. But having a monetary value attached to your actions here is very interesting because that is a control mechanism in itself. And the Federal Reserve does this really well, which is again why I'm glad this is kind of tied together. So the
Mm.
Fed is interesting, man. This is a hard money laundering slave system that just keeps everything in debt. Every dollar that they print, there's 50 whatever cents attached to it.
Right.
And it's a silly thing. It's a private organization. Every president that's ever stood up against it, which was only one, and two, but he was more military industrial complex. He was on his way out anyway. But Kennedy, of course, when he stood up for the Fed, and then also there was some talks about aliens, and what may have occurred with Kennedy is he figured out a bunch of shit, and that he just wanted to tell people because he had a conscience, man. You know, he's one of the White Hats, perhaps, or even that could be a goddamn psyop. But
I
anyway,
hope so.
I know. But let's say that there is somebody out there rooting for us. And even Bill Hicks says there's people that come along that tell us it's just a ride. And what do? We kill those people, you know?
Mm, mm,
So it just seems interesting to me that the people who speak out against something that's privately owned, that has no jurisdiction over the U.S. whatsoever, but prints our currency that is the standard gold, not backed in gold anymore, by the way, to take in physical value away and now just faith, you queef faith into this shit. And that's why it exists. And
right.
it's just an agreement at this
Yeah.
point, right? And so when you understand those two things, it's just an agreement. Now, if
Mm,
you want to get freaky woo woo with it, and we'll go gold on this, the Anunnaki dude and Zachariah Sitchin's
exactly.
work with, that's why we're so allegedly, this is what Sitchin's idea was, is this is why we're so predisposed to be a slave system, to just kind of be followers, which I don't think is true. I think there's a bunch of NPCs around here. Like 80% of people here aren't real, which is an awesome conversation,
Mm,
and that those are on sort of like a slave program that makes it appear that that is a consensus reality and that that's actually a public opinion, but it's not, because it's not
mm.
real, because it's controlled by the thing. And so therefore there's a few breakouts of us,
Right,
but I think
right.
it's more theater in a game. So if you look at it like this again, gold's very interesting, the Fed's very interesting. I think your worth and value in your actions, which then makes you feel bad or can make you feel that way, which I'd like to empower you to just call bullshit on the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah. Right
Same thing
on.
with
Yeah.
crypto. It's another system, and that's why I just wanted to skip over it. It's all bullshit. The value exchange is going to come in a different form, and whenever it's being tossed at you in these different ways that are very complex and super new, people gravitate towards it like crazy just because they want something new. And this was the case
Hmm.
study that was very interesting to me, is that how many people jumped on the shit. That tells you that the system is fucking broken. We all knew that it was broken, but something else was offered. All the rats jump on that ship. The
Yeah.
thing is, both the ships are on fire. So there's a different model here. We don't have it yet, but it's in there somewhere, and I don't think it's going to come in. It's not going to look like what it does now. I don't know what that looks
Mm.
like because I'm no
Yeah,
economist.
there's something in the
Not,
works. Probably
yeah,
won't be televised, but it's interesting that you speak on faith. Because faith was going to be my F originally, but I was like, Federal Reserve is like one of the like original conspiracies, and
yeah,
not even a conspiracy, I guess you could say. It's just like it is what it is, and how people have bought in with their faith, and that's how we got here today. But I do like your positive spin in the fact that like value can be shared in a variety of different mediums, and it doesn't have to be quote unquote currency. And that's always a nice reminder, especially if you know that you have neighbors who you can share with, trade with, etc. It's nice to remind ourselves that this green piece of paper or that token in your Coinbase wallet is not the end all be all for sure.
there's some. I'm grateful that you pointed this out. Do not disagree at all. I'm grateful you pointed this out. So there's something also to this, that this idea of currency exchange, and we when we talk about this kind of shit, yeah, dude, we're pretty far out with our ideals, but there's going to take some stair steps in between there. So I'd like to give something actionable to anybody out there
Mm,
listening now that we can do to shift the tide of this system. We all know that money speaks in volumes around here. If everybody were to not fill their car up for one day, the gas industry would lose their shit. Gas would
mm,
plummet to 25 cents a gallon the next day. And that's what we would do. Your dollar is crazy fucking powerful.
mhm,
So, to this point, knowing what we know and knowing how we invest our value, okay, money is just another energy here. It's just another form of energy. Whenever you give your money over, which is what you say, what you're trained to say, what you're really doing is you're investing in something. You are taking a piece of energy that you earned by physical experience, attention, physical interaction with material. And you had to stay alive to do that. You had to drive to a job and then back, and you had to deal with shit. You forgot your wallet, had to go back, like you're out of coffee. So you did it tired one day, like all of that shit you did. And so you take that energy and then you invest it in something that most people say makes them happy, but at a core level, if you really look at it, it makes you escape. And in
Mm,
my way of looking at this, there are two kinds of people: those who use their free time, and by free time, I'm saying the time that you're not spent hunting, gathering, the hunter gatherer equivalent, right, or
right,
sleeping,
right.
that spend their two kinds of people. One, those that spend their free time escaping their life, and those that spend it creating a new one. Now, if
Nice.
you are escaping this life, then yeah, man, give all your money over to Miller Lite, give all your money over to Netflix, give all your
Mm,
invest all of your energy and all of your time here, because that's what you're doing. You're trading your time to escape time, that you're trading your time to escape time. And this is a
mm,
loop. It is a whirlpool, and you're welcome to hang out in it as long as the fuck you'd like. But
mm.
again, with the things that we're talking about here in the monetary system absolutely shifting, the world is not the same, then something that I'm encouraging is value exchange with what you do find valuable. I will challenge every single person here on this podcast right now. Jake, do you have a PayPal or anything like that?
I've got a Venmo, I got
Okay.
my Apple Wallet, but I've
Okay.
never really publicly like put it out there, and that's
Well,
kind of like my own personal insecurity, especially when I started out. I think I talked to you about this off air before our first conversation. I was like, man, I'm worried about setting up a Patreon, but like I think you're about to get into why
yeah.
sharing your value in exchange for someone else's true genuine value is so crucial.
Well, it is. And so before I forget, I will tell you what to do in this. It's set one up for your show. Throw it
Mm,
in the show notes down there. So I will challenge your entire audience. Invest $1 in this conversation. $1. Now, what this does is set an energetic chain reaction, just like what we talked about Reiki. What you do is that you have set in motion an investment in something that actually values your life. Now, just because it's not behind a $4 million camera and it's not on a network that's, you know, pumping adrenochrome out of kids and shit on the side, but that you find valuable because your parents found it valuable. Here, all of this goes back to reevaluating your paradigm, and all your paradigm is your beliefs and experiences. Now, if you've lived your entire life believing and experiencing the experience of the TV being correct, daddy government, daddy govern me harder, daddy, if that's been the case, then yeah, that's how you're going to feel about it. But
mm,
if you're listening to the conversation, you're obviously at a point in your life to where you're evaluating things and you're at least critically thinking to some degree, and I'm grateful for every goddamn one of you. Really put your investment where your mouth is. If you find Jake valuable, which of course you do, then invest $1 in his PayPal down there. As soon as you pop the link in, send it to me, because I plan to participate in value exchange with you as well. I participate in value exchange with shows. I've been a member of Mysterious Universe for like 3 years now.
mm,
There were times where I paid that instead of renting a movie or getting a six pack or something like that. And that's fine. I never considered it something I was sacrificing that I wanted in the moment to escape my reality, because
mm.
I knew I was investing in people that were creating
You're
theirs,
consciously
that were
creating it.
making
Yes.
a big impact in my life. Now,
Yeah.
you participating in that as an audience member, you are now invested in this show. You are now a stock member of this. You now have an investment energetically in this. You also have no fucking clue what this does for your content creator. You work your ass off. You have a lot of things to do, and you have a lot of great things that you could be doing behind that microphone. But we all know that you've got to go hunt and gather.
Mm,
So if you could supplement that in a way where people back you enough to back your mission and back who you are, because you are the show, it's not your show. There was a study done that said, if we were to replace your host and do the exact same content, would you still listen to the show? 90% said no. It's because
hell
you
no.
you are the show. Exactly. We all
Mm.
know this. So there are a dozen shows on fucking Project Bluebeam, but I want to hear this dude talk about it. So
Right.
this is the whole model of value exchange, guys, and this is something I'm very much encouraging everyone to do. This is where my energy is, and it is zero problems if you're not on board with this. I will ask you to just evaluate where this triggers you at, where you have an issue contributing to someone that you find so valuable intellectually that you won't invest in monetarily, because this makes a difference. It makes a fucking difference. You're not sponsored. You don't have a bunch of, things going on here. Like, you would greatly benefit from that energy being infused into your project, because that then fuels the creative projects. That feeds you, bro. That helps you
Mm,
and your dog. There are so many reasons why this is important. The people at Netflix, shut your Netflix off for a month, invest in your favorite podcasters, and do it for 1 fucking month. And
I
you
love
tell
that.
me that replacing that isn't more valuable and you're not happier because of it. Value exchange is what this is all about moving forward. It's two things: authenticity and value exchange. That is the model moving forward. Nothing less will do.
Well said, my friend. I respect that, and I can tell that you're speaking so sincerely, and that I'm inspired now to also support my favorite content creators, and I think it's a
I'm
beautiful
a
thing that
dollar,
you've
dude.
just put out there, and I
I'm a fucking
appreciate
buck
that.
an episode you listen to about him. A buck an episode. What does that do?
A
If you
buck.
really look at it, there's a scarcity mindset in you if you say a buck is too much. That is number
Mm,
one, not true. Number two, the thing that a lot of people do, and this is something I just want to bring up for your benefit and any other content creators' benefit out there, and just as a peak for the audience as well. That dude, we don't want to fucking charge you for this shit. We go down these holes to where I would just love for this just to be fucking free and syndicated in a way that it's not hoard out by a bunch of pedophiles and shit like that. So there's a bunch of reasons to keep this sacred, and so but it still takes capital, it still takes that energy.
yeah,
And if
yeah.
you are going to participate in something like this, it is so important, it is so fucking important. And
Mm,
just the dollar, a dollar an episode, is it means more than anybody knows out there, like anybody knows. And if people would just do that, and so here's the part for the content creators that I wanted to say is it's all of us don't want to charge for this. We want this to be something that's completely free to you, but we don't live in a world to where that's realistic. So
mhm.
knowing that, it is not only bad business, it's going to suck you dry, create a black hole, and then your show's gone, and then they just move on to another show that's free, and then it's
Right.
this succubus type of a thing to where all this type you can scale this up because this happens every day. They move from one show. This is just the parasitic
And they'll
mindset, not the
consume you.
audience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not the audience, it's the mindset. And here's what we're here to empower people with is the information to be aware that here's how you've been fucked. And we're telling you how not to. So it's the mindset of disempowerment, and that's what it is. You feel, because your heart is so sweet, dude, because I went through this, man, I get it, that you shouldn't charge for the show, or people shouldn't have to pay for the show. Now, I don't disagree with you that this should be something that you get to do and that people get to enjoy. But
Mm,
knowing what we know about this place and knowing where we are in the model, it's not always going to be like this. But this type of conversation sets it up for the kids down the road starting a podcast that don't have to fucking have it. So, what we're talking about here is you empowering your audience. That's what this is about. You disempower them whenever you tell them that you don't want to have to charge them for the show because
I
you
see
don't
what you
think that
mean.
they
Yeah.
can afford the show. Okay. It's disempowering for everyone involved.
Mm,
What this is, it's an empowerment movement. This is what we're all doing together moving forward. The rising tide raises all ships, and we are the
amen.
tide. So get on board with that $1 show, guys. Listen to the fucking thing. $1 show. Men, just men. If you want to throw to, I'm no limiting thinking person here. I'm an expansive thinker. I'm just
It's
saying if you
true.
try it
It's
as
true.
exercise and see how you feel, you would not believe what investing in somebody else's project will make you feel. My God.
Mm,
All
I
right, I'm
love that,
gonna
Brandon.
close this
Check
up.
the show notes, folks.
Check the show notes,
Well,
man.
yeah.
Send it to me, seriously.
And it's cool. We previously were on energetic healing, and now my other topic is holistic health,
Oh,
which is
really?
so similar. But like, if we think about energy healing as one part of that wheel of health, there's so many other things you could get into. What comes up for you when I say the phrase holistic health?
Holistic just out in my mind means outside of the Rockefeller wet dream of medical science to take all the natural things that were making people happier and live longer and not susceptible to enslavement,
Mm,
and taking all that shit and turning it on its head. It's this idea of, making things that were perfectly natural that grow out of the ground illegal. That's what the medical community says to me.
right.
And so, holistic to me is natural. I mean, that's where I'm at. And so whenever I hear holistic, I just think warm. I think, oh hell yeah, it's not
Mm,
corrupted. It's all natural. It's beautiful, man. So that's where my mind goes anyhow. So I think, yeah, if we had a word associated, I'd be like, nice.
it's pretty warm. Yeah. When I really think about it too, if people do their own research and they genuinely dive into it, they will end up doing two things, hopefully both, it's like one, they're gonna do it themselves. They're gonna grow their own herbs. They're gonna create their own remedies. And then the other also beautiful alternative to the Rockefeller system is that they're gonna support small, maybe even local businesses who are providing those natural cures. So it's like it's a beautiful system to be a part of and to create ourselves.
100%. And if it's not something that's around you, consider growing a few herbs in your garden or consider
Mm,
starting a little garden and growing herbs. Now, something fun that you can do in your own garden with your own herbs is put the seeds in your mouth for a little bit before you plant them. If you do this with your family and you have like your row, your husband's row, your kids' rows, or whatever, those plants are genetically engineered to fix you, whatever the fuck is
right,
wrong with
right.
you, because your DNA is imprinted on
They've
the
already
seed.
met you. Yeah.
It's amazing. So
That's
there are
so
those
cool.
types of things, and maybe do that instead of investing in Netflix. Have the Jake podcast on outside on a speaker as you're tending your garden with your family. I'm just considering alternatives for Lush here.
That's a vibe right there.
It's a
Yeah.
vibe. And then you get into like the lecture culture and all that kind of shit. And it's fat. Like that's a cool rabbit hole. Like that's the kind of rabbit hole that lights you up, that the whole family can get on board with, and that you're not sitting there like zombies, just sitting
Mm,
around on your phones.
not escaping. Right.
Yeah, it's gross. But anyway, yeah. So holistic, man, I love that shit.
Me too. Likewise. Likewise. Infinity. Eyes for infinity, Brandon. And that is one of the most profound concepts we could think of. I mean, infinity.
Yeah, it's
What
a
is there to
song that
say about it?
never ends, isn't it? Yeah, it's a concept we can't wrap our mind around. We just can't.
Mm,
It's not something we understand. There's a very limited way that we can perceive our reality with our five senses, and time is especially one of those, and especially from our finite perspective. Like we donkeys live for 40 years. We had donkeys born out here, and I was like, motherfucker, I'm gonna be 70 when you're dead. You know what I mean? Kind
wow.
of thing.
Yeah.
And so, like the scale of time, and then you think about like those parrots and turtles that they pass on to their grandkids that live like 150 years. So now there's
Mm,
three human generations that have to take care of this fucking thing, right? But we don't understand that, and that's infinity, dude. You're talking that turtle times get fucked. Like it's mind-boggling how deep it goes. It is the equivalent of like you living every single moment in every single person's life ever,
mm,
but in one of them this company decided to make this orange and that black, right? They
right.
decided to inverse the colors. Everything else, even the colors of the other ones in the line, are that way. And everything else happened identically. That's the only difference. And then you roll it all back to zero, make everything else the same. So any potential variance would be expressed. And that's only a fraction of infinity. So you can't wrap your fucking mind around it. You get threads crossed, like one thread used, like this sheep was used instead of that one. Other than that, everything was identical. And all the way down to then you walk through that entire herd. Then you change every step that humanity's ever had leading up to that herd and the genetics that led to that herd. Everything is changed. Every possibility is represented in infinity. And that's why it's a mind fuck, dude.
Holy shit, Brandon. Well, there's one thing that you said that really sticks out. It's that we are experiencing, or we are ourselves, a fraction of infinity. And that's gives me
I think
chills to
so.
ponder that. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you consider like the idea of infinite loops like fractals. And Dave and I
Mm,
talk a lot about this, and Randy Rouse and we've talked about this from Deep Share. And it's this idea of like that you're one example that I've used is that you walk outside at night and you are standing on your front lawn or something and you look up and you see a star. But really it's not a star. It's a submolecular particle of you inside
mm,
you. And if you were to zoom all the way into that submolecular particle, then it would zoom up and scale up to a you version of you now, this size, that's just staring up in a front yard out at a star
mm.
that then just continues in this never ending loop.
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of shit trips me the fuck out, like this Matryoshka doll idea
Yeah.
of
The
scaling.
Russian doll. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
All
Nice. Oh, I could picture that perfectly. That was very well said. And it's funny that we already touched on this, but J is for JFK. And is there anything else you want to add to our friend Johnny?
Yeah, probably like an alien. He was probably like a really good alien, and he infiltrated the lizard turds, and they didn't know how to handle it. And I would like for people to think about that. There you go.
God rest his soul. K is for karma, my friend.
Karma is an interesting. Well, we all start with karma, thinking that it's you do good to avoid bad and to get good in return, and you don't. You avoid bad to only get good in return and to avoid bad. But I've come to find out through many conversations about karma because it's gone my karma has changed much about how I view karma. And really, the way I look at it is lessons. And I talked to Graham about this as well. It's just like lessons for me, man. I
Mm,
see it as just sort of an opportunity to go, hey, it's like an instant check. That's what it is. And these long term karmic scales, I'm not necessarily sure are accurate because let's say that there's something that whenever it comes back around to you, you identify as karma. Let's say it took it 10 years to get to you.
mm,
From the time you feel that you incurred that karma, you've been thinking about something coming back to get you for 10 years. It just took 10 years to do it. Now, all throughout that 10-year time period, you've probably gotten little pings and symbols and little triggers that mimic the exact thing that you've ignored because they weren't wearing the same costume as the event.
mm,
The universe has given it to you, but ramped it up all throughout those 10 years. And finally, it swung back around to some point. Maybe you just decided on the other side, hey, if I don't fucking get it by this 10-year period, slap me in the face with it. Okay. Just
mm.
huge dick from the universe. Just let me give me
Kapah.
this grace period, but then slap me with it at that time, right?
Mm,
You didn't get it, so you get slapped with the dick of the universe right there at that time, and then boom, it all comes back, and then karma's a bitch. Actually, no. If you just would have handled shit, and if you would have just lived up to the four agreements, which nobody knows, okay, you're all manifestations of what the best information you had at the time. Don't be fucking hard on yourself. You're doing better than you
mm,
think.
mm,
And so, if you did know that and you were being impeccable with your word and you weren't making assumptions and you didn't take anything personally, you're always doing your best, then that situation number one wouldn't have occurred. So then you could
agreed.
say, okay, then it led me to understandings or understandings rather that now I don't even have to deal with those situations anymore. That is karma. And if it didn't present itself to you in shitty ways, you wouldn't learn it. And so that's the whole point. I really do think that it's this balance in your energy. It checks you and where
Mm,
you're at. It just says, hey, you signed up for a particular experience here. You've wandered too far out of bounds. You're fucking it up, and you have some really dope shit to look forward to. All you got to do is correct course just a little couple degrees, and you'll be right back on track. And we'll quit bugging you about it. It's like
mm.
think of okay, I just fucking thought of this. This is awesome. A quick analogy to karma. Think about the beep in your car that tells you to put your seatbelt on.
Oh, yes. It's like, by the way, just a reminder, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and you're like, "Fuck you! I just want to live my life. I'm a freedom, right? I do what
It
I
gets
want. Oh,
louder and
I'm
louder
sorry,
and
but this
faster
is
and faster.
America." And
Yeah.
you can tolerate it for a little bit. You can
Yep.
turn that music up as loud as you want, but
Hmm.
eventually you are gonna put that goddamn seatbelt on, or you're gonna buy something that clips in that's just cut, like you do for
Oh,
gear.
yeah, yeah. You'll try to cheat the
Yeah,
system.
absolutely. So there's always a way, but there is these loud, overwhelming, and that's how I'll put it, man. That was a great analogy. Thank you, whoever just gave that to me. I'm just a
Yeah,
receiver for this shit most of the time.
just a receiver.
That's it.
Oh, man. Well, let me throw something completely different your way. And I don't know if you're Irish, you might be, but
I
we're
am
going to talk
part
about
Irish, Irish and German.
leprechauns. L is
Okay.
for leprechauns.
Okay, leprechauns. So we're talking fey folk. We're talking,
Mm,
we're talking mischievous things, which then leads you over to Pan, which is that god of
mm,
mischief and those type of literary representations and archetypes. I think that it really just represents mischief, man, and I think that that's very
yeah.
important. It's mystery and mischief, and it's odd because it's small and it's got a weird suit, like it's dressed with. Like, what is going on there? Like, what does
What
that
party is
world
he on
look
his way
like?
to? Yeah.
Yeah. But think about this. Maybe it's like a normal world, and his job over there is to put on this suit that nobody wears, right? They all
Mm.
consider it like a Chuck E. Cheese outfit. Like nobody really wants to wear this shit. They know it's
Yeah.
hokey. They know it's fucking stupid, but they put it on for us. Maybe the aliens do this too, by the way. That
Mm,
goes really
mm.
deep.
Yeah.
So then you kind of think, well, maybe it's jinn. And if you're familiar with jinn, the creatures that are the genies,
Yeah,
in
in the Middle Eastern
Semitic religion,
traditions.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they can shapeshift. They can form into anything, vehicles. They could be a UFO. They could mimic any animal. All of that shit. So the whole phenomenon, all the crazy, freaky woo woo, could just be jinn and leprechauns included. Now, I
Mm.
think the mind of the time of the people. I think that the phenomena at a level, if you really zoom out on it, is a psychosemantic one, and it's very
Yes.
personal for everyone. But also, there's a zeitgeist along with it as well that's influenced a little bit because it is subjective. It comes from you, but your impression of how it's viewed globally or larger at a larger scale from people that aren't directly you, but that are you in a way. That influences the way that it would be perceived by you, right?
Mm.
At a level, even subconsciously. It's 95% of shit happens you don't even know about. So if you look at it like this, and that type of thing is just it evolves with the times. The UFO phenomena does this as well. UFOs
Hmm.
change shape all the time. They used to be fucking really old, and then they evolved into their saucer era, and now they're like Tic Tacs and orbs and shit. And
Yeah,
cigars
it's
have kind of
whatever's
ruined
trending.
whatever's trending. That's man. I think you really rang a bell with me on that because the phenomena follows whatever's trending in the zeitgeist mind at the
It's a
time. So
cultural mirror.
yeah, and that's why fae folk, like, not a lot of people are talking about fairies and shit that much, or leprechauns, except for that hilarious video. I love that, and they have the drawing of it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Uh,
Everybody can see a leprechaun say yeah, and they're all
yeah.
like yeah, and then he's like, I saw him, he's in the tree, and then they have a drawing of it, and it's like the shittiest thing ever. It's the best thing. If you just want to light your day up, go watch that. It's
Mm, mm. Yeah, it's kind of cool. You've reminded me of some research that I had the wonderful opportunity of. So I used to quickly, I'll just tell you this quick story. I used to work at a Christian publishing company called Guidepost, and they wanted to create this cool, trendy book about near-death experiences. So it was my task as the intern to do a bunch of research, and I ended up going to the Skeptical podcast with Alex Sakaris to listen to a bunch of his interviews about near NDEs. And it was cool that this cultural flavoring always plays a role. Like you could have four people in a car, and the car gets into an accident, and you have like a Muslim individual, a Buddhist individual, a Christian individual, an atheist, and they're all gonna have that near death experience in different ways. It's really cool that the leprechauns are just one of the many all encompassing manifestations of whatever this thing is that we interact with all the time.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I've brought that example up of people, and even people crossing over and seeing Buddha and having a
Mm,
conversation, and then seeing Shiva and having a conversation, like different, seeing Jesus, and then coming back. All three of them came back and said, "Oh my God, I saw this, this, and this." They're like, "No, I saw this. No, I saw this." But they all had the same experience physically,
right, right.
but their Garfield experience was totally different. Their
Yes.
imaginary one that can't be
I
weighed
saw
with science.
Garfield. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nice, man.
very
Nice.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, I guess, it's so funny how some of these weave together, but M is for multiverse.
Multiverse, man, I love this one because the multiverse is fun when you kind of take it. I think it's a good representation for your ability to play out possibilities here
Mm,
in isolated environments. And so if you think about it, like, let's say, have you ever seen The One with Jet Li, that movie?
the one, okay, no, that sounds like a
Oh,
fun movie to
so
watch though.
fucking, you nailed it with the word fun. Jason Statham's up in that bitch. It's got Jet Li, and basically the premise, I won't ruin it, but the premise is it's a multiverse setting. They have
Mm,
the technology to travel between, and he goes around and kills or attempts to kill all the other versions of himself because your
damn.
power is divided against the multiverse. So basically,
Mm,
think of yourself as this omni, like God, because you're splitting it, right? Like, let's say that you have a container of cupcake batter. Well, all of it's in a big container, but when you start squeezing it into the little individual
yeah.
cupcake
Start
things,
to
it's
spread it
separated
thin.
out. Yeah, it's not as big and bulky. It doesn't have the mass and weight, right? Well,
Mm,
that's equivalent to your energy in a multiverse of yous. You're all the little cupcakes. So this dude went around, ate all the other cupcakes, and consumed all the power, and to be like this supreme being. And again, I'm
mm,
not going to run it for you. It's a fun exercise. Now, how I like to look at The One with Jet Li, this crazy, awesome, fun movie, and the concept of the multiverse when it comes to other disciplines and modalities that I've looked into. I just recently had an expansive insider with somebody I've had on the show named Rachel Horton White. And what we did is she jumped into my Akashic reading, my Akashic records. And it was so cool to get into those things and to really swim around in them and to just say, like, what the fuck is going on here? And it got really, really, really deep. And it was really, really, really interesting.
mm.
So, whenever you go into the Akashic, have you ever done that?
I know about the Akashic, the Akashic records, and how it's like kind of the storage of all of human memory and all of
Yeah.
consciousness. But I've never done the exercise. Neither have I done like a past life regression. Both of those I find fascinating.
Fascinating, right? Because at levels, then you bring the multiverse into the Akashic. Then you're saying, okay, well, not only the other versions of me on this plane, but I can tap into the other versions of me in the multiverse because you
Mm,
weren't a human in all of these.
mm,
And I she told me I was like from the Lyran star system with the cats and shit, which was pretty cool. My cats love me.
nice.
And so, like, stuff like that. And I'm like, I ran out immediately and told my wife because she's such a cat person. I was like, I'm from the
She
Lyran
must
star
love that. Yeah.
system and shit. And I was like, yeah, these are my homies. And so now
Mm,
it's just like a joke between me and the cats. of the way. So how I took this was I was like, okay, well, she went into some past life stuff that I really felt, man. It got very that's an emotional conversation that we had, and it's there. It's very real. And so there's some emotional things that I find in my character that I carry with me that I understand I don't need to, but I'm not really clear on number one why they're there, and number two how to shed that skin, because I'm very mindful. I'm very aware of it. I know it's not my burden to carry, but what's going on with that? I didn't tell her any of this shit, by the way. She jumped in and said, "Hey, here's a past life thing. Let's walk down it." We did. It brought up all this fucking shit, dude. I'm crying like a little girl, whatever. And I didn't mean little girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
She gets in there, starts telling me all this shit. Now, how I took this was here was an experience that I was told I had in a past life that mirrors very closely to the things that I'm talking to you about now
Mm.
that she didn't know about. So the way that I looked at this was if we go to energy healing, which I do think. Now, if you even want to look at energy healing as quantum physics, which I love tying this into something that there's a paper written on, it's not necessary to do so, but I like that because it's also another way for people who don't just speak at the reading level of energy to
Yeah,
understand
it's
things and
more
see it from like a
accessible.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's more accessible. That's perfect. In quantum physics, there's this thing called quantum entanglement, which is spooky action at a distance, which is you're connected to everything. So if you affect one particle here now, then you affect it, the spin of it over there in an equal opposite reaction right now. How I've applied this to myself, just this quantum physics idea proven. People just won Nobel Prizes on this shit, is looking at ancestor healing in this way. I would go back to my 5-year-old self, whatever, child, whatever, and have a conversation with that kid. And I'd be the kid, be the strong person that that kid needed at that time.
Mm.
What you are literally fucking doing is going back in time to a particle that you were quantum entangled with because it's yourself at a younger time and healing that trauma, healing that, which then translates and snaps you back to your moment of now healed,
Mm.
right? An
Mm.
equal and opposite reaction. So you've now transmuted or alchemized that energy to your point of now. Tying it back to the multiverse, I promise. In the Akashic, we discovered that I had this past life thing, whatever. If you take into account what I just said there about being able to send healing connected with quantum physics, if that's the case, and you do subscribe to all this, then you go to it with, okay, well, if I heal me now, I heal all the versions of me in
Oh.
every universe, in every
Mm.
multiverse, in every time, in every whatever. We sent all, and so what's crazy is, and I've been doing this, I do daily check ins with all of the versions of me.
Mm.
It's been a mindfulness practice. I send them all love. I'm like, how's everybody doing? It's kind of like a group chat that's not annoying, and I
Yes.
said
Yeah.
this when I first sent it out. I was like, look, none of us like group chats, and I know that. I'm like, but I love you guys. I just wanted to say this. Hey, something came up in the records, and the way that I literally viewed this, hey, something came up in the records. Now I'm aware of it. It's
Mm.
affecting me, which means it's affecting you too. This was a very big thing that I have this understanding about. If it's affecting me, it's affecting you. If I know about this life, you do too. We all found out about it together. Okay. I think all of us are doing the same thing in every life. Okay.
Mm.
Or coming to the same understandings at the same time, not through the same means, which is even more fascinating. If you could think
Oh,
about
yeah,
it,
yeah.
if you were
That's a
to
good way to
zoom
put
out
it.
and see all of your different lifetimes occurring at like running tracks next to each other, and
Yes,
coming to
yes.
the
Right, right,
same
right.
understandings, but over here you're on a horse doing it. Over here you're
Hmm.
taking a hike. Over here you're underwater and almost drowning. Over here you're making a meal. You know what I mean? All
Right.
but these epiphanies hit you all at the same time. Maybe that's what happens. And maybe that's what this 100th monkey shit is. It's you communicating with you. And when you play with this idea of like your spirit guides being your future self and all of that, then it's all versions of you tied together. So when I started just even entertaining this, I was like, well, fuck it, man. I mean, time's gonna pass anyway. I may as well play with this.
Hmm.
I was like, dude, let's send this version of us that we all know about now because we're all connected. We've already clarified that. Let's send him all this healing energy and love, and let's send him the resources that he needs to get him out of the situation he's in because we know that it heals us now. I feel completely differently about it. I've done this for 3 days now, and I feel well, 4 or 5 days actually. I feel so much better about this. I check in with all versions of myself in the
Hmm.
multiverse. It's been a mental mindfulness practice that I have, and now instead of thinking of myself as this one little thing out here on this whatever by myself, I'm part of this goddamn team that's represented in any life form, and we're all out here with the same mission to serve, and we're all helping every version of ourselves strengthen ourselves so that we can be that for everybody, every other version of ourselves. So
Mm.
it's almost like your own little soul tribe that you're the
Yeah, your
two.
council, your inner council.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
That's
that. And
that's how
it's
I look at the multiverse. Yeah.
yeah. It's very reminiscent to like the work with ancestors. But it's
Yes.
yourself and your rep repeated and replicated across a vast landscape of universes or other planes of existence. It's
Yeah, it's your you
fascinating.
sisters. It's
Your
you. Okay?
ancestors. Hey, there we
Everyone.
go. There we go. Let's write that one down for
Write
sure.
that down.
Your ancestors. Nice.
In the
All right.
universe. Yeah.
We are on N. N is for numerology.
Okay, numerology is very interesting. I don't know too much about the like breakdown of I understand the concept of like that different letters represent a number and that you
Mm-hmm.
can add those up to be a sequence of things and that there's a lot of numbers encoded and a lot of numerology encoded in language and it's fascinating the people that break this down. I
Yeah,
am not one to speak on it
same.
to
Same.
make it sound interesting at all. What I will say is to numbers in general. Numerology to me also is the signs from yourself
Mm-hmm.
showing yourself. So we're talking about these angel numbers and these, mirror numbers and all that kind of shit. I think that is fascinating. You can do this. You can play with it. You can say, okay, on this drive, I'm going to see 444, whatever. And my wife and I do something that Human Vibration talked about on the show. It's called Put It on the Timeline or something like that.
Mm.
Basically, we do this when we go out of town. We've done it twice now. And what you do is you pick like four things that you want to manifest that you will see along the way. One of them we did God, we did 222, which we saw like right away. Four twos actually, which we saw right away. Like a blue. It was so specific, like a blue duck, something
Mm.
like a phonograph, and then a hot air balloon. So these things, right? And then you do this. Now the numbers are interesting because on a large scale, this is what it is if you play with that idea, and you can do this with numbers all the time. And numbers are a really cool way numerology or not, numbers are a really fun introductory way to start playing with your reality and get
Mm.
it to show you signs back to you by intentionally setting that you will see specific numbers. Play with it though, it's fun.
Yeah, man, that'll bring you closer to synchronicity in a bunch of different ways, and it's cool that you've been experimenting with that. I want to try that myself now. Well, I'm gonna kind of speed through the rest of
Yeah, yeah,
these.
yeah. Let's blow through. I'm gonna give quick answers. I promise. Go for it.
Okay. Hey, no, it's
Super speed round.
yeah, let's go for the speed round. All right, let's go. Let's go. O is for original sin.
Original sin, psyop. I think it's the opposite. There's a thing called the Apocalypse of Adam. It's a 46-page document. It's a PDF you
Mm.
can download. It's the inverse story that's in the Bible. Absolutely fascinating. Go.
Original psyop. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
P is for predictive programming.
Predictive programming, easy. It plays into the psychology that the game players know very well, and they play into the fact that they know that they plant things in your reality that you will manifest because you listening to this are the real creators. You're not all deliberate creators all the time, but now you are because now you're deliberately creating, but you've always been creators. Now, predictive programming has to do with the system or the matrix or the lizard tower, whatever you want to say,
Mm.
their ability to hijack your consciousness and perception manage you through life. And that is what predictive programming is all about. Also, it's about bringing forth these horrible things that occur in our reality, like 9/11 and stuff like that. Like one example is the movie Under Siege with Denzel Washington. That has to do with the Arab terrorist attack on the World Trade Centers. A few years later, it actually happened. Same
Mm.
thing with The Simpsons. They kind of predicted that shit with the
Oh yeah.
magazine cover 9 and 11 and the Supertramp album cover, and all of these things. That's predictive programming, and they'll put it in 30 years, 50 years in advance. They'll
Mm.
start putting that shit in your mind. I think predictive programming has been going on with the UFO phenomena. That's why they always in movies paint them, or generally, I'm generalizing, mostly paint them as evil and that they're going to come attack
Yeah.
us, so that
Only very few movies
we
don't. Yeah.
exactly, and so that we are mentally primed for the predictive programming. We're
Mm.
predictively programmed to look at what then the Project Bluebeam callback, when that rolls out, we're just going to accept it as what's real because we've seen it in movies forever.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say on that is if you're watching Netflix, then odds are you are the product. You're the customer and the product as well. Yeah.
And because Edward Bernays is the
Mm.
father of
Father of
propaganda, his
yeah.
nephew owns Netflix.
Yes, yes. Bernays, Uncle Freud, right? Or there's some
Uh,
connection to Freud.
yes, yes, his uncle was Freud, I believe. Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to say yeah, and
Small
his
world.
nephew is running Netflix, by the way, guys.
Yeah,
So there you
that is Watch that all add up in some
Invest a
special
dollar
way.
in
Yeah.
your Patreon down there, your
Yes.
PayPal.
Thank you.
Value exchange. You're going to really evaluate everybody out there. That's a choice point for y'all now. You're really going to start evaluating because now you're looking at it as investment from your energy. It's a piece of you
Mm,
that you are putting out to then propagate out to the world. And if you want more beer, then fuck yeah, invest in that. And then your kids will drink beer and all that, and it'll continue on forever. If you want something better, invest that energy somewhere else. And that's all right, go.
love it. I love
Next.
it. You already brought up quantum. Q is for quantum.
Quantum. I had a guy on Dr. Doug Matsky. He wrote a book called Deep Reality. I've got it right there, but it's going to knock some Legos over, so I'm not going to grab it. It's the only book that Dr. William Tiller, physicist, famous physicist, ever co-wrote a book with, and so he's the first guy that's ever done it. It's that book right there. Quantum physics is fascinating to me, just like what we said earlier about the spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it. He hated it, but then had to admit that it was all right at the end there. Einstein admitted a lot of things about his equations and about quantum physics there at the end of his life that get very overlooked in the physics. I don't think a lot of physicists see the full implication of, because if you look at something like the double slit experiment and the observer and what we've talked about the placebo effect, and you're just like, holy shit, this place is just whatever you think it is, and it manifests in front of you that way.
Mm,
And that's the kind of information that they don't really want you to know. But as the evolution of consciousness goes, it's inevitable for us to expand and to figure these things out. And so that's why I think you're being predictively programmed to understand quantum physics, because it's going to be a very, very important step in all of us moving forward whenever all the riffraff is cleaned up from the lizard turds.
awesome callbacks, and I love this sandbox that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, R is for reincarnation.
Reincarnation, same thing. You get to come back to it. I'm not a fan of the like you did shit over there, so you have to pay for it here. I
Mm.
think a clean slate is something I'm a bigger fan of ideologically, and that's only because I'm stepping in these shoes right now, and I forget every time I come in this bitch. But I think that the idea of reincarnation, in a way of, and Rachel and I talked about this in the Akashic as well, in a way of like daisy chaining your skill sets to be able to come back in at a certain time. So I asked why I came in reincarnated in this time in this body. She said that it's being in this time in this body, you have a very important message to get out, and being
Right.
born in America afforded you that. Now, in the past, I've been a painter, I've been a philosopher. She walked through a bunch of lives. I wrote them all down because all of them are things I do in this life. Super
Mm.
creative, super free spirit, be able to talk to people, listen really well. Huge on animals. Farming was another one, which were huge outdoor nature. Like all of the things that I love now were all full lifetime commitments for me in other lives, in other reincarnations. And so they've all been necessary. So if you get to pick this out, you're like, okay, I'm going to be pretty hungry when I'm a Roman soldier walking through this field, conquering this land. So
Mm.
what I'm going to do is way back in like 7 whatever BC, I'm going to bring this apple over here and I'm going to plant it right here as this little girl in 3 BC. And then when the Romans come back, that's going to be me later. And this is going to be a whole grove here. And then I can feed not only me, but my buddy. So
Right.
this type of intricate, how it's woven into playing with the physical, is where I think reincarnation goes so fucking deep, because we only get a small sliver, sort of like the way that we can see our reality with just our visual faculty. We only get a little bit. We don't get the ultra red, we don't get the ultra infrared or ultraviolet, but we know that they're there, right? And so you can think of like your perception of time being so limited here. But if you do expand it, just even jump out to 3 lifetimes. Okay, well, I
Hmm.
was a World War II pilot. I worked on cars in this one, and then my farts stink really bad in this one. So in the next life, like I'm gonna do
Gassy
some
Brandon.
whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like
Yeah.
there's just this like idea of this specific linking of specific lifetimes that you've chosen to experience to get a certain skill set. Now, let me trip you out even further. I know this is supposed to be a speed round, but
That's all right.
let's say that maybe if time doesn't exist on the other side, everything's already happened, right? So everything's already happened. Again, from our perspective, time is already done or works in this way because it has to for our experience. But
Mm.
if we were to say that everything's already happened and every life has already existed and been lived, then really, maybe what this entire fucking experience is a huge choose your own adventure, but where you come in to get specific skill sets
Yes.
for something else later.
Right.
So let's say that you can come into and experience as many damn lives as you want to get the skill sets that you want to take into the next reality, whatever that
Mm.
is. Maybe you're creating your own and you're a god in that world. Maybe it's a battle and you need to come back here and learn how to do all kinds of shit in so many goddamn different ways. Maybe you needed to be a turtle for a certain amount of time so you could understand
It might be
patience.
necessary. Yes.
Right. And so then if you look at it this way, then everything here has been experienced. So just in the way that in the Matrix, they can just push a button and then jack information into their head.
Mm.
If you think about it in the way we perceive time, they didn't jack information into their head. They relived that event in real time from that perspective in a full lifetime, learned all of that. And
Mm.
then, but from the perspective of the film and then them itself,
Man.
it was snapped together instantly. But really, it's a lifetime that they live to acquire that skill. Let's say that's what reincarnation is.
Giving me big Assassin's Creed vibes right now.
There you go. A
Yeah.
100%, dude. You've got it. And it goes so fuck. It's so much fun to think about.
Mm.
Yeah.
S is for synchronicity.
Mm.
Good old wink from the
Synchronicity is,
universe, eh?
yeah, it's the way you realize this place is fucking awesome is by
Mm.
synchronicities.
Mm.
That's when you stop calling them consistencies, is when synchronicities are really a lot of people's first magic here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and a lot of people take for granted the, well, I was thinking about that person and then they texted me and I hadn't talked to him in 5 years. That's fucking magic, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is magic. That is quantum physics. That's all the woo woo shit, but you just write it off because so many people openly experience it. Same thing with like deja vu. What the
Mm.
fuck is that? Same thing with the Mandela effect if you want to pay attention to
Oh
it. Like
yeah.
things are fascinating. And I think those synchronicities, like I said, it's the gateway into that something dope as shit is going on here. It's
Love
like the
that.
marijuana equivalent to spirituality.
Love that. T is for Thanksgiving.
Like any of those holidays, man, it's appropriation, psyop. I think also though, bigger to Thanksgiving, and I'll put this out there that I don't think a lot of I haven't heard anybody talk about this. Is something my wife and I talked about this year actually. If you really look at it, what is winter time for? For humanity, for people, for human beings. It's for rest, right? It's for
Yes.
chilling. You are in a cytokine storm of a toxin release, and rather you entertain the terrain versus germ theory idea, then in terrain
We're gonna get to
you're
that.
just venting toxin. You're just venting
Yeah.
toxins, and then you're just popping out of this shit. Now I think it's interesting that we are born into a place to where these holidays aren't real, so they were hijacked, and we all know this about paganism and Jesus's birthday and all of that, that it was
Mm.
moved to Christmas from the summer. Why the fuck would they do that? Now I get the astrological tie-in with the solstice and the sun dying for 3 days. I get all that.
Mm.
Why I think they're celebrated in the way that they are. You've got New Year's, Christmas, Thanksgiving, bing, bang, boom. Right there in wintertime when you're supposed to be fucking chilling, you get
Right.
thrown into the most stressful situation you can imagine. So I think it's a psyop to drain your loosh in the time when everybody's supposed to be chilling.
I personally love July 4th. Those winter holidays, total psyop. I totally agree with you.
Absolutely. And you've got like your mom makes you feel bad, and you're like, Mom, we're not
Yeah,
supposed to be
yeah.
doing this. You don't understand.
Let's
And she's
meet
like,
on the
shut your
spring
hippie ass
solstice,
up.
mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get
Yeah.
your ass to Christmas. Yeah.
All right. U is for underworld.
Are we talking about like underworld, like deep underground military bases, like physically under
That's
our feet,
one.
or like the underworld, like the hell, like
Mm,
Hades or something like
okay,
that,
there's two.
like
Yeah,
Inferno?
yeah.
Okay, underworld. Another one would be like your inner world, your
Yes,
shadow side. That would be a
absolutely.
third.
Hmm.
Underworld, the movie, is about vampires and werewolves, so perhaps there's something there.
Badass.
Didn't see it throw the finger up, but we're gonna count for the audience. That's four. Um, yeah, I mean it's mysterious. I mean that's why they call it the underworld, right? Like the black internet market or the black dark
Mm.
internet, dark web or something like that. It's supposed to be mysterious and
Ooh,
scary.
yeah, yeah.
And
Earlier, you also mentioned like underground lakes in the Antarctic region or everywhere
yeah,
if you really want to look into that. Yeah.
dude, and then even UPAs are fucking fascinating, man. UPAs are
Pause.
it's an acronym for out of place objects, right? And so
Oh, yeah,
one of the
yeah.
examples is in Texas, by the way, and welcome to Texas. We're glad
Thank
you're
you.
here.
Thank you.
In Texas, there was a hammer that was dug up in a coal mine that was like 400 million years old, but it was a hammer
Ah,
with a
yeah.
handle, wooden handle, and a hammer and everything. Now, there's
Mm.
a couple fun theories for that. Like, what the fuck is that? Is it a civilization that existed 400 million years ago? They had all the same shit, and that there's basically this sort of resets that happen here, and we
Mm.
all have the same technology, and that this shit just sinks underground. I also entertain with the tutorial idea that cycles do occur here of these cataclysms that wipes the face of this earth, and for a reset for whatever reason. That's a whole nother fun conversation to have. But that this liquefaction occurs to where it liquefies the surface and sinks everything down, and then
Yeah.
entraps it. So that could explain these oopas. So that kind of shit underground. Frogs also found in these caves in rocks. Have you heard about these? There's been several accounts of these by miners. They're down there hitting shit. They break a rock open in a like 40 million-year-old coal mine, and a live frog hops out of a rock that was completely encased in this rock.
Oh,
It's happened
damn.
several times. Yeah. People
Wow.
love frogs. Frogs are fucking aliens, man.
The
They're
subterranean world is full of mysteries. I could go on
yeah.
about
You
that
talk
forever.
about like
Wow.
Agartha, Inner Earth, all that, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast deep underground military base. I mean, it's fascinating. Who knows? Who the
One
fuck?
last thing for anyone else who wants to look into it more, look up bioluminescent mushrooms.
Oh, hell yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
love that.
Hmm.
All right, we're almost there, man. We got V is for virus. Who would have thought?
So that gets back to the terrain and virus theory, germ theory, rather. The idea that you can catch things from someone else and that's what makes you sick has been fascinating for a while. And I heard this
Mm.
study that the US military did back in, I want to say it was the 30s. And they basically took people that they knew were confirmed to have the flu and they spit in their mouths and
Oh
they
yeah, I heard
they
about
ate
this.
food and they drank after each other. They breathed on each other. Not
Mm.
one contracted the virus.
Nope.
Not one.
Mm.
This is a study put out by the US military that showed this shit, which is even better. And so if you look at it like this, you're like, okay, well, why then do we catch things? Why then, like, are we told, oh, if you go outside barefoot in the cold or with wet hair, you're gonna get sick? Or if you're around this person that's coughing, you shy away real quick, you know. And
Mm.
we saw all of this happen in 2020. Of course, everybody was made to feel that everybody else, you should be scared of your fellow man, and that's part of the psyop. That's what I think
Mm.
germ theory is all about. It was
Yeah.
planted as one of those things early that they're like, all right, cool, this will help, and then we'll really ramp it up later.
Mm.
So I don't see it as that. My wife and I really rephrase this. The S word, sick, in this household is a cuss word. We don't say it. We say you
Mm.
are healing. If
Healing.
you you're venting toxins if you're not feeling well. That's what
Mm-hmm.
you should be doing. We're got shit sprayed on us all the time. The water's all fucked off. The food. You are gonna vent these toxins at this time predictably every year. So there's no such thing as a flu season.
Right,
There's a
right.
season in which we all go through a collective shedding of all the shit that we put in our
The
bodies
detox cycle.
to detox. Yes. And so virus, I think, is a made up word, just like anything else. It's a boogeyman that doesn't exist.
Thank you for putting that so succinctly. I have a couple people who I'd like to show just that soundbite to.
You're pulling a
Well
clip.
done, my friend.
That's how I feel about it. Now, I'm no educator.
Hey,
That's how
yeah.
I feel about
Gotta respect a man's opinion.
it, sir.
W is for war.
I'm this horrible psyop, man. This one is one of the scarcity mindset that the leaders in power, who are not leaders, by the way, I say leaders with
Hmm.
dramatic air quotes, the people in that you have been told you should listen to, is the
Yeah, that's a
extent of how that
fair way to
definition
put
would
it.
go. uh, Put their citizens against one another for riches and gold. None of it's to solve any sort of boundary conflict. If anything, it's to uninstall power that challenges theirs and reinstall someone that's going to be passive. You see this constantly. Gaddafi is one of the biggest ones. Saddam
Hmm.
Hussein, another huge one. He really stabilized the region. Even though everybody, yeah, horrible fucking person. Have you seen the region? Have you seen what the U.S. government has done to that region so that Saddam had to go in there and stabilize it?
The
So,
before and after pictures are
dude,
crucial to
crucial.
understand. Yeah,
Well, and a worldly perspective is crucial to understand because
yeah,
bigotry, travel is the death of bigotry, man. All you have to do
yeah.
is get the fuck out of your own goddamn country, open
Hmm.
your eyes for a second, go talk to someone else in another country and see that you are no fucking different. And in fact, you have so much more in common than you really think. And also, they're incredibly interesting and fascinating. You are going to expand your world so much by the interaction
Hmm.
because of the differences. Wars and things like border control and that type of perception management, that all goes back to that predictive programming, man. It's perception management. It's an attempt to hijack your most valuable currency, which is your attention. And a
Hmm.
war scares the shit out of people, as well it should. I view it as scaled up, one of these opportunities for large consciousness expansion that we have not taken ourselves up on yet because they continue to occur. We will eventually figure this shit out, but not today. And that's okay.
It's like Terrence McKenna says sometimes. He's told the story that we're going through a birthing process and it's going to get
Yes,
bloody and loud and violent and scary. But there's always a light at the end.
absolutely.
And I love the segue, the contrast from W to Z. To close it out, my friend, Z is for Zen.
Zen is being figuring out your relationship with you. That's it.
Namaste, my friend. Well, thank you so much, man. This has been a hell of a ride. We went through the whole damn alphabet, and
Yeah.
I want to do it again.
Well, we'll
I
do it
want to
again
get
because
through it.
there's
Yeah,
so many different ways you can approach this. And I
yeah.
love that you did this is a brilliant idea. I'm a big fan and I see big things for this moving forward. So that's awesome, dude.
Much appreciated, man. You're a total
Fuck yeah.
badass. Please tell everyone where they can find you, how they can connect with you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, dude. One link, expandingrealitypodcast.com. A lot changing on the show, a lot of new shirts out. Go check the lizard turds out. I've got one that's called T-Rex. That's a lot of fun. It's a T-Rex
Nice.
that's screaming fuck balls. Um, and align your chakras. I found the Surya Mudra, which looks just like this, and so it's a whole shirt that says align your chakras. Go check that out. Those are a lot of fun. Expandingrealitypodcast.com, and that's it. And thank you so much, dude, for having me on.
Badass, man.
Fun.
Yeah, as a closing statement, I usually hear you say this. If someone's behind you in the left lane, et cetera, what do you usually say?
Yeah, my closing. Well,
Yeah.
you live in Texas now. Do you understand the plight of the left lane? Have you
What
seen it
happened to
at all?
turn signals, bro? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you live in no, that's not fair. You live in Dallas. That's not Texas.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's it's just so different. But that's okay.
Mhm.
So what I say at the end of every show, and I truly mean this. I mean, this is just a well wish for everyone. It's just that go out into this beautiful, mysterious place, whatever the hell this thing is, and y'all just be nice to one another. Pick up a piece of litter, um, buy somebody in line around you a coffee or a meal, something like that. Be nice to everybody that you come across, lizard, turd, or not. Get the fuck out of the left hand lane if you've got somebody behind you wanting to pass. And above all and anything else, go out into this beautiful, mysterious place, whatever the fuck this thing is, guys. And y'all just be good to one another.
You are appreciated, my friend, and it was good to see you tonight. Wishing you the absolute best. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Thank you, dude.
Peace.